commas. They just look like periods with tails, but they're really important elements of a sentence that can completely change its meaning. For example, without a comma, Ariana Grande is an artist's name. With a comma, Ariana Grande is what the Starbucks barista yells out. Same with Bruno Mars. Without a comma, just his name. With a comma, Bruno Mars is the name of a colony on Mars. Commas are important, so we have to know where to put them in order to harness their power. There are 8 major ways in which we employ commas, and we'll go over them in this video. Then you can search your paper to make sure you caught them all. Let's go. Here are 2 independent clauses. These 2 can be combined to make a single sentence, but you have to add things to the sentence to join them. 2 things. The first one is one of the fanboys. Fanboys is an acronym for a group of words. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. You can use these words along with a comma to combine 2 independent clauses, like this. Here's another one. So every time you combine 2 independent clauses with one of the fanboys, you need to have a comma in front of the fanboy. Some sentences start off with an introductory word or phrase. When it does, you need to separate it from the rest of the sentence with a comma. For example, this sentence, "In the long history of dumb and pointless sentences, this one is by far the worst." Or this sentence, "Underneath all the makeup and jewelry, Jane was still just an alien human hybrid trying to win a beauty contest." An introduction can be a single word as well, like this sentence. Unsurprisingly, the month of January came first the following year. So you always need a comma between the introductory word or phrase and the rest of the sentence. When you make a list of more than 2 items, you need to separate the items with commas. Otherwise, the list can get confusing. For example, go to the pet store and buy me dog food, bird food, a dog, and a bird. Or this one. What has 3 legs, 3 eyes, 2 faces, and no patience? A pair of angry pirates. So any list of items has commas in between all the items, including a comma in front of the "and" at the end. If you're talking about a boat and you want to describe aspects of that boat by using more than one adjective to do it, you need commas between those adjectives. Maybe it's a broken, ugly boat. Maybe it's a sleek, fast boat. Whatever it is, separate those adjectives if you describe it with more than one in a row. What is a non-restrictive element? The opposite of a restrictive element. This is an example of a sentence with a restrictive element. I need new clothes that don't shrink in the washer. That "don't shrink in the washer" is a restrictive element because it is restricting what the sentence describes. But if the sentence was formed like this, I need new clothes, which often shrink in the washer. Now it's a non-restrictive element because the description at the end is describing what can happen, but isn't restricting what the sentence describes. Here's another example of a restrictive and non-restrictive sentence so you can see which one needs a comma. Restrictive, the papers were all dated in the 1930s. Non-restrictive, the many papers, which were all dated in the 1930s, sat in a pile. In the first sentence, all the papers were restricted to being dated in the 1930s, while in the second sentence, they just happened to be from the 1930s. In the second sentence, it is merely a piece of information about the papers rather than a requirement or a restriction. You show that difference by separating the non-restrictive element with a comma. In a story or a paper, when someone is being directly quoted, you use a comma to separate the signal phrase from the quote itself, such as, John said, "Is there something in my teeth?" Or, as the political reporter noted, "This man's pants are on fire." These are fairly simple, so I'll just show you some examples. With dates, you put the month, then the date, then a comma, then the year, like this, January 7th, 2007. If you add a day of the week, you put it at the beginning and add a comma between it and the month, like this, Sunday, January 7th, 2008. With locations, you put a comma between the city and state, or the city and country if there's no state, like this. With specific addresses, you put the full address, then a comma, then the city, another comma, and the state, like so. Titles covers a few things, like junior or doctor. For example, William Williams Jr. or William Williams, MD. You use a comma to separate the name from the title that accompanies it. Wait, what? Why are all these lumped together? Well, it's because they're all smaller elements that don't connect to any larger rules we already talked about. So I'll break down an example or two from each one so you can see how commas are used there. Here we go. Transitional expressions show how one sentence relates to another. Words like moreover, additionally, in contrast, above all. When you use a phrase like this, you separate it with a comma. After all, reality television is entertaining because it's true. Or, as a matter of policy, the Walt Disney Corporation does not pay cartoon animals for their work. A parenthetical expression is additional words placed in a sentence that don't change the meaning of a sentence and can be removed. We place commas around it to show it can be removed, like this. My Little Pony, John's favorite TV series, airs at 8 o'clock on Tuesdays. The parenthetical expression, John's favorite TV series, has commas on either side because it can be removed from the sentence without changing the overall meaning of the sentence. Same here. John, to my knowledge, likes ponies of all sizes. To my knowledge is the parenthetical expression here. An absolute phrase is a word or phrase that modifies another part of the sentence. It can come at the beginning, in the middle, or at the end. For example, at the beginning, surprising everyone, Laura arrived to the party on time. In the middle, the partygoers, expecting Laura would be late, hadn't started drinking yet. At the end, the partygoers began to drink, happy in their drunken revelries. Contrasted elements are elements that are opposed in the sentence and therefore separated by commas. An example would be, I wished you a happy, not a crappy, New Year. Nouns of direct address are nouns that the speaker is referring to directly. Some examples. Doctor, he can't be dead. James, he's been dead for 3 years. Death, why did you take my brother? The words yes and no, pretty self-explanatory. Look here. Yes, I know what I'm talking about. No, you can't have a lollipop. The comma goes between the yes or no and the rest of the sentence. An interrogative tag is a small addition to a sentence that makes it a question, like this. You use a comma between the rest of the sentence and the interrogative tag. And mild interjections are short phrases or words that show emotion or feeling from the writer. Phrases and words like hello, good grief, please, and wow all apply here. Check these out. Hey, that's my car. Wow, what a spacious trunk you have. Good grief, does no one here understand how a clock works? And that's it. Those are your uses for the comma. Don't worry, we don't expect you to remember all of them right now. You'll remember some, and you can always come back to revisit this video and get a refresher. Now go hunt down where to put those commas. And if you need more help, come see us in person. We're in Building 4, inside the Academic Success Center, room 120. Good luck.